Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribers, and remember, at 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. In the vast and often unyielding expanse of the Perseus Arm, the sleek exploratory vessel Seraphine glided silently, its reflective hull mirroring the stardust scattered across the cosmos. Aboard the Seraphine, Thera, a seasoned pilot from the advanced Lyran civilization, navigated through the lesser-known sectors of the galaxy, charting star systems and exploring planets under the mandate of her people to expand their astronomical databases and enhance their understanding of the universe. Thera's mission had been routine until a sudden burst of cosmic radiation disabled the Seraphine's navigational systems, sending her hurtling uncontrollably toward Zarmina, an uncharted planet with minimal data entries except for its harsh environmental conditions and volatile weather patterns. As the ship descended rapidly, Thera managed a few critical maneuvers to lessen the impact. However, the damage was inevitable. The Seraphine crashed into the rugged terrain of Zarmina with a catastrophic force that tore the vessel apart, scattering debris across the alien landscape like a burst of silver against the dusk. Dazed but conscious, Thera found herself pinned within the wreckage of her cockpit, her body a map of pain and her senses overwhelmed by the acrid scent of burning circuits. Her training kicked in immediately. She administered emergency medical aid to herself, staunching the bleeding from a deep gash on her leg and injecting a dose of pain suppressors. The planet's atmosphere was breathable, a small mercy, but its sunlight was searing, especially to a Lyran like her, whose photosensitive skin reacted painfully to direct exposure. The situation was dire. Her communication systems were in ruins, but the emergency beacon, a standard in all Lyran vessels, was built to withstand much. Crawling painfully to the beacon, she activated it, sending a distress signal that cut through the electromagnetic dissonance of the planet's atmosphere. The beacon pulsed rhythmically, a lighthouse in the overwhelming expanse of her predicament. As Thera lay back against the cold metal of her ship, the gravity of her situation began to sink in. She was alone, potentially miles from any form of civilization, on a planet that the Lyran Council had deemed too dangerous for colonization efforts. The pain began to creep back as the suppressors wore off, and with the planet's sun setting, the temperature dropped rapidly, adding the threat of hypothermia to her growing list of dangers. Night on Zarmina was a cacophony of alien sounds, an orchestra of howls, clicks, and the rustling of flora that seemed almost sentient. Thera, trained to remain calm in the face of the unknown, cataloged each sound, trying to discern any immediate threats. The hours stretched on, each minute a prolonged heartbeat, as she used her survival training to maintain consciousness and keep fear at bay. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, the distress signal propagated through the void, crossing into human-monitored space where it was picked up by the Titan, a deep space mining vessel on a return trajectory to Earth. Inside the Titan's bustling control room, the signal caught the attention of Jack Mason, the ship's medic, and a man of irrepressible curiosity and empathy. He listened intently to the beacon's data stream, his mind racing with the possibilities of who might be at the other end. Convincing his captain to alter course was no easy task. Resources were limited, and the Titan's mission had no room for unplanned detours. Yet something in the urgency of the beacon's plea, a universally recognizable call for help, compelled him to argue passionately for a rescue mission. After a tense discussion, the captain gave in, swayed by Jack's unwavering determination and perhaps his own sense of cosmic solidarity. The Titan adjusted its course, cutting through the cosmos toward Zarmina, a planet of dangers unknown and a pilot desperately clinging to life. Back on Zarmina, as Thera watched the stars twinkle in the alien sky, a faint hope stirred within her. Her people were known for their resilience, their technology, and their isolationist tendencies. But in this moment, cast upon the frontier of human-charted space, it was not Lyran ingenuity she awaited, but the arrival of a human, a species known throughout the galaxy for their tenacity and boundless courage. In the chilling Zarminan night, the distant hum of an approaching ship sounded like the sweetest melody, a promise that her signal had breached the loneliness of space, bringing her not just hope, but a potential savior. As the Titan neared the coordinates of the distress signal, Jack Mason prepared himself for whatever he might find. He was a medic, not a soldier, but his experiences in the outer reaches of human space had equipped him with a robust skill set and an unshakable resolve. His crewmates often joked that Jack had a penchant for finding trouble, but he saw it differently. He was simply willing to go where he was needed most. As the ship's captain, Marla, navigated the Titan through Zarmina's turbulent upper atmosphere, Jack checked and rechecked his medical kit, mentally reviewing the protocols for treating alien physiology. The descent was rougher than anticipated. Zarmina's atmosphere churned with violent storms, the remnants of the cosmic radiation that had brought Thera down. The ship shuddered as it passed through layers of thick, electrified clouds, but Marla's steady hand and years of experience saw them through. They landed a safe distance from the crash site, guided by the blinking of the Lyran beacon which cut through the planet's dim twilight like a star calling them to safe harbor. As Jack disembarked, the planet's landscape struck him immediately, a stark vista of jagged rocks and sparse vegetation under a sky painted with the violent hues of the storm they had just passed through. The air was brisk, carrying a chill that suggested the drop in temperature Thera had feared. Jack flipped down the visor on his helmet to protect his eyes from the planet's bright light and activated the suit's thermal layer to combat the cold. Approaching the wreckage, Jack's heart sank. The Seraphine was in ruins, a testament to the violence of its descent. Parts of the sleek ship were scattered across a wide area, creating a trail of debris that led him to the cockpit where Thera lay. He found her semi-conscious, her body curled protectively around herself against the cold, her skin visibly reacting to the sparse light that filtered through Zarmina's stormy sky. "Hello, I'm Jack, a medic from the Titan," he announced, his voice calm and steady through his helmet's communicator. "I'm here to help." Despite her weakened state, Thera's eyes flickered with a mix of confusion and relief. Her lips moved slightly, a whisper escaping that Jack's translator picked up as a simple, grateful acknowledgement. Jack set to work immediately, scanning her injuries with his portable medical device. The readouts confirmed multiple fractures, severe dehydration, and the onset of hypothermia. Jack administered a cocktail of broad-spectrum antibiotics and painkillers, along with a Lyran-specific medical foam to stabilize the fractures. The technology was a result of the fledgling but growing cooperation between human and Lyran medical sciences designed to adapt to the unique biology of the galaxy's known sentient species. As he worked, Jack erected a portable shelter around them, a quick-deploy module he had brought from the Titan. The shelter's walls were lined with heat-retaining material, providing immediate relief from the planet's harsh conditions. Inside this makeshift safe haven, Jack continued his treatment, applying thermal blankets and hydration packs to Thera while monitoring her vital signs carefully. Throughout the process, Jack spoke to Thera, explaining every action he took, ensuring she felt involved and not just a passive recipient of his aid. This verbal communication wasn't just a procedural practice, but a deliberate effort to bridge the gap between human and alien, to provide comfort through presence and reassurance. As Thera's condition stabilized and her consciousness cleared, she began to speak, her voice growing stronger. She told Jack of her mission, her crash, and her fears of the night on Zarmina. In return, Jack shared stories of Earth, of the unyielding human spirit, and of his own dreams that reached beyond the mining routes of deep space. In the sheltered warmth of the emergency habitat, a bond formed, a mutual respect between two souls from distant stars, united by circumstance on a hostile world. Outside, the winds of Zarmina howled, indifferent to the plight of its unwilling visitors, but inside, Jack and Thera shared a moment of calm in the storm, a brief respite filled with the warmth of newfound camaraderie that promised to see them through the challenges ahead. In the sheltered confines of the emergency habitat, as the storm outside began to wane into a whispering breeze, Thera and Jack continued to share their stories, weaving a tapestry of trust and understanding between them. Thera, feeling a growing sense of gratitude and awe towards her human rescuer, began to describe her world in vivid detail. Lyra was a planet of shimmering oceans and vast libraries, where knowledge and tradition ruled, and where the night sky was celebrated with festivals of light that defied the darkness of space. Jack listened intently, captivated by the stark differences and surprising similarities between their cultures. He shared tales of Earth, of the blue and green jewel humans called home, with its chaotic weather systems and diverse ecosystems, where survival had taught humanity to be both resilient and resourceful. He spoke of his family, his early dreams of becoming a doctor, and how the harsh economic realities had led him instead to the far reaches of space, where miners and explorers like himself often faced dangers unknown for meager rewards. As the hours passed, the initial formalities faded, replaced by a comfortable camaraderie. They discussed their respective technologies, Thera fascinated by the adaptability and ruggedness of human engineering, Jack enthralled by the elegance and efficiency of Lyran designs. The exchange wasn't just verbal, it was practical. Thera, despite her weakened state, began to instruct Jack on the finer points of Lyran technology, guiding him through the process of salvaging what they could from the wreckage of her ship to enhance the shelter's capabilities. The necessity of their cooperation became even more apparent as the planet's night cycle approached. Zarmina's night was a cacophony of alien sounds and the lurking dangers of its indigenous wildlife. Thera explained that the creatures of Zarmina were primarily nocturnal, drawn by the warmth left in the wake of the sun's harsh rays. Their discussion turned tactical, and together they fortified the shelter's perimeter with a series of makeshift alarms and barriers, using broken ship parts and the natural topography to their advantage. Jack, who had taken basic survival training, was impressed by Thera's strategic thinking. She proposed using the reflective debris from her ship to create a perimeter that would disorient potential predators with light reflections, leveraging her species' sensitivity to light in a defensive capacity. This approach not only utilized Thera's intimate knowledge of her own weaknesses and strengths, but also adapted human survival strategies to an alien environment. As they worked, Thera found herself relying on Jack's physical strength and his quick adaptability. Meanwhile, Jack depended on Thera's detailed knowledge of the local biosphere, which she had quickly assimilated from the ship's preliminary scans before the crash. This mutual dependency deepened their trust, each action and decision building on the last, proving their capabilities not just to each other, but to themselves. When the first signs of wildlife emerged as eerie silhouettes against the dimming light, their preparations were put to the test. A creature, reminiscent of the Terran wolf but larger, with luminescent eyes and scales that glittered under the light of Zarmina's twin moons, approached the perimeter. It tested the barriers, pawing at the reflective surfaces and recoiling from the unfamiliar sensation. Thera watched with bated breath, and Jack stood ready with a makeshift spear. But the creature, deterred by their preparations, soon retreated into the darkness. Breathing a sigh of relief, Jack glanced at Thera, who managed a weak smile. "Your plan worked," he said, his voice a mix of admiration and relief. "It did," Thera replied, her tone mixing pride with a newfound respect for Jack's willingness to embrace her alien logic. That night, as they took turns keeping watch, the barriers holding steady, their conversations meandered between moments of silence filled with mutual reflection. They had survived the first real test of their makeshift alliance, a testament to human ingenuity and Lyran intelligence working in harmony. This night, under Zarmina's alien sky, marked the true beginning of their partnership, a bond forged not just for survival, but from a genuine mutual respect that transcended worlds. With the initial threats of the Zarminan night successfully repelled, Jack and Thera grew more confident in their ability to survive the harsh environment of the alien planet. However, their survival required more than just securing the perimeter. They needed to find sustainable sources of food and water. As morning broke, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape, they set out from their fortified shelter to explore the nearby terrain. Thera, still nursing her injuries but significantly recovered under Jack's diligent care, led the way with cautious optimism. Her environmental suit had been patched up using materials salvaged from the wreckage, providing her some protection from the sun's abrasive light. Jack, ever watchful, scanned their surroundings with a handheld detector that had been modified to pick up potential edible plant life based on Thera's descriptions of her prior botanical surveys. Their trek was slow-going, the ground uneven and littered with sharp stones and twisted metal from the crash. As they navigated through a narrow gorge, the walls rose steeply on either side, casting them in deep shadow. It was here, in the cool damp of the gorge's shadow, that they encountered the Zarminan flora in full bloom. The plants were unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Vibrant and oddly luminescent, their petals opened to the scarce light filtering down from the narrow strip of sky above. Thera, with her keen scientific mind, was fascinated. She approached a particularly bright cluster of foliage, its leaves a shimmering blue that pulsed gently. "Careful," Jack warned, instinctively reaching out to hold her back, but Thera, caught up in her scientific curiosity, stepped forward to collect a sample. It happened in an instant. The plant, seemingly reactive to her proximity, unleashed tendrils that shot out with surprising speed, wrapping around her arm. Thera cried out, more in surprise than pain, as the tendrils tightened. Jack reacted swiftly, pulling his knife from his belt and slicing through the nearest tendril. But the plant was resilient, its fibers tough and resistant. He realized quickly that cutting Thera free would not be as easy as he had hoped. "Stay still," he instructed calmly, trying to keep panic from his voice as he saw the fear in Thera's eyes. Working methodically, he sliced at the tendrils, but for every one he cut, another seemed to take its place, each new tendril growing more aggressive. It was Thera, her mind racing even in the grip of panic, who remembered an entry in her preliminary scans about the plant life. "The light, Jack! It reacts to light! Dim your suit lights to the lowest setting!" Understanding dawned on Jack, and he immediately turned down the lights on their suits, plunging them into near darkness. The effect was instantaneous. The tendrils, losing their stimulus, began to retract slowly, slithering back into the plant's main body, which closed up like a nocturnal flower at sunrise. Once free, Thera stepped back shakily, her arm bruised but not seriously harmed. Jack kept a supportive hand on her shoulder, his relief palpable. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Yes, thanks to you," she replied, managing a weak smile. "We must be more careful. Zarmina is full of surprises, not all of them friendly." They decided to collect samples using remote tools from then on, avoiding direct contact. As they continued their exploration, the encounter remained fresh in their minds, a stark reminder of the planet's hidden dangers. But it also underscored their growing ability to adapt and respond to threats as a team, relying on each other's strengths to navigate the perils of this alien world. The experience had unnerved them, but also bonded them more tightly as comrades. As they made their way back to camp, their steps were more cautious, their conversation more subdued, but their resolve to survive and understand this world was stronger than ever. After their unsettling encounter with the sentient plant, Jack and Thera approached their exploration of Zarmina with renewed caution. As they cataloged the edible species Thera had safely identified, they filled their supplies with enough sustenance to last them several days. This preparation allowed them to focus on enhancing their shelter's defenses, anticipating the possible dangers that could emerge with the falling darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of deep purple and red, the temperature dropped sharply. They had observed this pattern repeat every evening, but tonight felt colder, the wind sharper, a whispering harbinger of the coming night's challenges. With a mutual understanding of the stakes, they reviewed their defensive setup, a perimeter of light-reflective debris, the makeshift alarms rigged from parts of Thera's damaged vessel, and a series of traps that Jack had engineered from his mining equipment. Thera, who had become more mobile and confident in her physical recovery, helped Jack test each alarm and trap. Their effectiveness would be crucial for their safety. "We should stay vigilant," she advised, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had survived more than one perilous night on an alien world. "The predators here are not just reacting to the warmth we've seen. They might be curious about or attracted to our energy emissions as well." As darkness enveloped their camp, the alien landscape transformed. The night brought a symphony of strange sounds, each more eerie than the last. Thera and Jack took turns keeping watch, using the enhanced optics from Jack's helmet to pierce the pitch-black environment. Hours into the night, a rustling alerted Jack to a presence just beyond their perimeter. Switching to thermal view, he saw the outlines of several large creatures stalking silently towards their camp. "These must be the apex predators of Zarmina," Jack murmured, tapping Thera awake. Together they watched as the creatures, resembling large panther-like beasts with scales that glinted under the moonlight, prowled closer. The creatures tested the perimeter, prodding at the traps curiously. One of the creatures, bolder than the rest, triggered a trap. A net, woven from the strongest fibers Jack could salvage, ensnared it. The creature thrashed violently, emitting a high-pitched keening that seemed to communicate distress. Its companions circled around, their eerie yellow eyes reflecting a cunning intelligence. Thera observed their behavior intently, noting, "They're social and possibly pack hunters. See how they respond to one of their own in distress?" Jack nodded, watching as the trapped creature calmed under the soothing sounds emitted by its pack. Using a makeshift spear, he cautiously approached the netted beast, aiming to release it without causing harm. His approach was met with growls, but he persisted, speaking in low, soothing tones he hoped were universal. With a swift movement, he cut the creature loose and it bolted, disappearing with its pack into the darkness. Breathing a sigh of relief, Jack and Thera retreated to the safety of their shelter. "Your bravery and compassion, even in these tense moments, might have just established some boundaries with these creatures," Thera remarked, impressed by his actions. Jack shrugged, a humble smile on his face. "Or at least some mutual respect," he added. Their encounter with the nocturnal predators of Zarmina had been a close call, but it fortified their resolve and their preparedness. The remainder of the night passed without incident, and as the first light of dawn began to seep across the landscape, Jack and Thera felt a newfound respect for the planet's inhabitants and for each other. They had faced another of Zarmina's tests and emerged unscathed, their partnership strengthened by each challenge they overcame together. With each passing day on Zarmina, Jack and Thera grew more adept at navigating its perils, drawing from each other's strengths and knowledge. They had learned to coexist with the planet's unpredictable flora and fauna, but their situation remained precarious, their survival hinging on the hope of rescue. To increase their chances, they decided to enhance the distress beacon, combining their technological expertise to boost its signal strength. Thera, her health steadily improving, took the lead on the technical aspects. Her understanding of Lyran communication technology was unparalleled, but the challenge lay in integrating it with the human-made components Jack salvaged from the Titan. Working side by side in their makeshift workshop, they dissected the beacon's components, spreading them out on a cleared workspace made from ship debris. Jack watched in admiration as Thera, with precise movements, reconfigured the beacon's core. "The power output is too low. We need to amplify it without overloading the circuit," she explained, her fingers deftly rearranging the wirings. Jack nodded, handing her the tools she needed, his gaze occasionally drifting to the horizon, where the storm from days past had left an eerie calm. To increase the beacon's range, they needed a makeshift antenna. Jack proposed using the Titan's mining equipment, which included extendable metal rods that could be repurposed. Together, they constructed a tall, makeshift antenna, anchoring it securely in the rocky ground near their shelter. As Thera connected the last of the wiring, the sun began to set, casting long shadows over their work area. She switched on the beacon, and immediately the antenna hummed to life, the air around it crackling with newly amplified energy. "It's working," she said, relief evident in her voice. "This should reach the outer sectors of the Lyran constellation, and hopefully the human outposts as well." Jack clapped his hands together, a grin spreading across his face. "Brilliant! Now we wait and keep this running as long as we can." As night fell, they retreated to their shelter, keeping the beacon active, its light pulsing like the heartbeat of their hope. The following days were a tense waiting game. They maintained the beacon, making minor adjustments to optimize its performance. During the long hours, they shared more of their personal stories, their dreams, and their fears. These conversations not only helped pass the time, but deepened the bond between them, grounding them in the humanity of their situation. One quiet evening, as they sat observing the beacon's steady pulse against the starlit sky, Thera's sharp ears picked up a distant sound. She tilted her head, listening intently. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Jack strained his ears, and after a moment he heard it too. A faint but growing hum, different from any of the planet's natural sounds. They looked at each other, a mix of excitement and apprehension in their eyes. Rushing out of their shelter, they watched as a small craft, sleek and unmistakably Lyran, pierced the night sky, descending toward them. Their hearts raced as the craft landed a short distance away. The hatch opened, and out stepped a Lyran rescue team, clad in high-tech suits, their expressions a mixture of relief and awe. Thera ran forward, greeted by her fellow Lyrans with embraces and quick, relieved exchanges in their fluid native language. Jack hung back a moment, allowing them their reunion, but soon Thera turned and beckoned him over. "This is Jack," she introduced, her voice thick with emotion. "He's the reason I'm still alive to signal for help." The Lyran commander extended a hand to Jack, a gesture of gratitude and respect. "We've heard your story over the transmission. It's an honor to meet you, Jack Mason." As the Lyrans prepared to bring them aboard, Jack and Thera exchanged a look of triumph. Their combined skills had turned despair into hope, and now, rescue. They had not only survived, but had forged an unbreakable bond that had bridged their worlds, a testament to the power of unity in the face of adversity. The Lyran rescue team wasted no time in securing the area around their landed craft, a procedure that spoke to their meticulous nature and advanced training. As Thera introduced Jack to each member, it became evident that their story had reached far beyond the confines of Zarmina, stirring both curiosity and admiration among her people. The commander of the rescue team, Captain Lirael, was particularly interested in the cooperation that had ensued on the harsh terrain of the alien planet. "Your efforts to survive, supported by the ingenuity of both human and Lyran technology, will be a celebrated case study," she declared, her voice resonant with pride and intrigue. Jack, though relieved at their impending departure from Zarmina, felt a bittersweet tug as he looked around at the makeshift camp that had been their home and battleground. He and Thera had built more than just survival strategies. They had built a friendship that defied the odds. "I suppose we did all right, huh?" he remarked to Thera, who smiled back, her eyes reflecting a mix of emotions. "Yes, we did more than just survive," Thera responded warmly. "We learned from each other. We saved each other. This is the beginning of something greater than us, Jack." As they boarded the sleek Lyran ship, Jack was struck by the sophistication and elegance of its design. Everything was streamlined, from the efficient layout of the control deck to the comforting amenities provided in their medical bay, where both he and Thera were promptly checked for any lingering health issues. The care they received was exemplary, blending advanced Lyran medical technology with the consideration of human physiological specifics, which Thera had briefed them on. Captain Lirael invited them to the ship's observation deck as Zarmina receded into the backdrop of space. "Your signal didn't just reach us," she explained as the stars stretched into lines of light with the acceleration of the ship. "It has been received by multiple outposts across the sectors. You've become quite the symbol of interspecies cooperation." Thera and Jack exchanged glances, their experiences on Zarmina transforming from personal survival to a galactic anecdote that might inspire future missions and deeper collaborations between humans and Lyrans. The journey back to Lyran space was smooth, filled with debriefings and discussions about potential joint exploratory missions. Thera was often called upon to recount their strategies and decisions, each tale highlighting Jack's bravery and ingenuity. Jack in turn emphasized Thera's knowledge and resilience, ensuring her contributions were equally recognized. Upon arriving at the Lyran primary space station, they were greeted with a mixture of ceremony and scientific curiosity. Leaders from the Lyran Council expressed their gratitude and interest in fostering stronger ties with humanity. Jack was invited to speak about his experiences, an opportunity he used not only to recount their ordeal, but to advocate for increased collaboration between their races. "Space is vast, filled with unknowns and dangers," Jack told the assembly. "But with allies like Thera, like the Lyrans, we can make it a little smaller, a lot safer, and infinitely more wondrous." The Council's response was overwhelmingly positive, with several members proposing formal talks to discuss collaborative missions based on the framework of the survival strategies developed by Jack and Thera on Zarmina. As the formalities concluded, Thera and Jack found a quiet moment to themselves, looking out at the stars from the station's viewing gallery. "What's next for you?" Jack asked, genuinely curious about her future. Thera smiled, her gaze fixed on the infinity beyond the glass. "Whatever it is, I hope it involves new horizons, maybe some of them with you, my friend." Their rescue from Zarmina was not just an end, but a new beginning, a nexus from which their futures would unfold towards unknown but hopeful possibilities. After the ceremonies and debriefings concluded, Jack and Thera found themselves stationed temporarily at the Lyran Primary Space Station, adapting to the pace of life among the stars with different species. The story of their survival on Zarmina had not only circulated among the Lyrans, but had also reached human outposts and colonies, symbolizing the potential for deeper interspecies collaboration. Thera spent her days in meetings with Lyran officials and scientists, discussing the integration of human technology with Lyran systems and planning future cooperative missions. Her expertise, sharpened by the ordeal on Zarmina, was now in high demand. Meanwhile, Jack was invited to participate in advanced medical and survival training programs, sharing his experiences and the techniques he had developed to handle alien environments. As the weeks turned into months, the pair were often called upon to speak at conferences and seminars, both separately and together. Their story served as a beacon of cooperation, echoing the beacon they had once boosted on Zarmina to signal for help. They spoke of resilience, innovation, and the unyielding spirit of camaraderie that had sustained them. One of the outcomes of their adventure was the establishment of the Zarmina Initiative, a joint exploratory program dedicated to developing protocols for emergency situations in uncharted territories. The initiative also aimed to explore and catalog new worlds, using the data Jack and Thera had gathered on Zarmina as a starting point. It was an ambitious program, one that would ensure the safety of future explorers and deepen the shared knowledge pool between humans and Lyrans. Jack was named lead advisor for human survival strategies, while Thera was appointed as the chief liaison for Lyran technology integration. Together, they shaped the curriculum and training modules, drawing from their real-life experiences to create comprehensive guides and tools for the next generation of space explorers. Their friendship had blossomed into a formidable professional partnership, admired and respected across species lines. They were often seen debating ideas or sharing a light moment in the station's zero-gravity lounges, their bond a constant reminder of their shared ordeal. During one of their regular joint presentations aboard a newly commissioned exploratory vessel, Jack and Thera unveiled a holographic display of Zarmina. The audience, a mix of human and Lyran officers, watched in silence as the display highlighted key areas of the planet, their crash site, the paths they had explored, and the locations of their encounters with the native flora and fauna. "Every point of light you see here represents a lesson learned, a challenge overcome," Thera explained, her voice steady and clear. "These lessons will inform how we approach the unknown, ensuring that we do not just survive, but thrive." Jack added, "And every story we share is a step towards understanding each other better, building not just missions, but also bridges between our cultures." The presentation concluded with a standing ovation, the crowd moved by their message of hope and unity. Afterwards, as they floated beside the viewing port, looking out at the expanding universe, Jack turned to Thera. "Think there are more Zarminas out there?" he asked, his tone half joking, half serious. Thera laughed, the sound mingling with the hum of the spaceship. "I'm sure there are, and I can't think of anyone better to explore them with." The legacy of their time on Zarmina was more than just survival. It was a testament to the power of unity and diversity, a narrative that would inspire countless others as humanity and the Lyrans ventured further into the cosmos together.